All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy Akeen, and welcome to today's college football blog. Here to talk about Week 8 of the 2014 college football season. Now, this is going to be survival of the fittest. This is where the beginning of where teams are going to have to try to survive to make it to the playoff coming towards the end of the season. Only the strong will survive. Now, I'm going to start with the game between Utah and Oregon State. This game is going to be played tonight. Now, Utah is ranked 20th in the nation, and they had a big win over UCLA. They have a good, well-balanced defense led by senior defensive end Nate Archer, who's actually second in the nation with 8.5 sacks. I think he's going to have another good game. I'm going to have to go with the Utes over the Beavers, but I think this just could be a close matchup because the game is going to be played at Oregon State. Next game is my upset game of the week. I'm going to go with number 14 Kansas State over number 11 Oklahoma. Now, this game is going to be played at Norman. And Oklahoma has actually been struggling for the past couple of weeks offensively, particularly in throwing the football. They need to do a better job in passing with Trevor Knight leading the way at quarterback. 6 touchdowns so far this season and 5 interceptions. Yes, he has over 1,500 yards passing, but as far as getting the ball into the end zone, he's definitely been struggling, particularly in the red zone area. Now, for Kansas State, they've been having a good season overall, and this is going to be a big game for Kansas State because they are still 2-0 in conference play. So they're fighting to survive, to remain undefeated, and looking for that matchup against Baylor in the remainder of their schedule to remain undefeated and win the Big 12 championship. Now, for OU, this is a survival game as well. Now, they did suffer their first defeat against TCU a couple of weeks ago, and they're still looking forward to stay alive in the Big 12 conference. But I have to go with Kansas State in this one because offensively for OU, they just really been having a hard time throwing the football. Now, they're going to depend on running the football pretty effectively in this game against the Wildcat defense, but the Wildcats has been doing great against the run. So Trevor Knight is going to be that X factor at quarterback. He's going to have to step it up, particularly in the red zone, and I think he's going to struggle in this matchup. That's why I have to go with Kansas State over Oklahoma. Next game, this is going to be a great shootout between number 4 Baylor at unranked West Virginia. Now, both of these two teams display good air captain, my captain quarterbacks. Bryce Petty from Baylor and Cody Trickett out of West Virginia. This is going to be a great shootout between these two teams. I'm going to have to go with Baylor over West Virginia. They had a great win last week against TCU. The keys for this matchup, they're going to have to convert on third down. That's going to be very key in this game, and both teams cannot afford to commit turnovers in this matchup. But I'm going to have to go with Baylor because they have a high explosive offense, and I think they have a better defense, in my opinion, than West Virginia. West Virginia actually averages 36.5 points per game allowed compared to 20 points per game from Baylor. So that's why I have to go with the Bears. Next game is a Big Ten matchup between undefeated in Big Ten play, Iowa at 1-1 Maryland. Now, this could be a scare for the Hawkeyes, but I'm going to have to go with the Hawkeyes in this matchup, and I did have a hard time going against Maryland. Maryland having back-to-back home losses, but I have to go with the Hawkeyes in this one. But both teams need to do a better job running the football, especially Mark Wiseman, the star running back for Iowa. He's only averaging 3.4 yards per carry, and he's one of my top 5 fullbacks for the 2015 NFL Draft. But he does have 8 rushing touchdowns this season, but I think he needs those stat numbers needs to go up. He actually averaged 5 yards per carry last season. Next game, Alabama is going to be hosting number 21 Texas A&M. The Crimson Tide's ranked 7th, and they suffered their first defeat a couple of weeks ago against Ole Miss. And last week they had an upset scare against Arkansas, escaping 14-13. Nick Saban was not happy about the discipline that they had, the mental mistakes that they had in that matchup against the Razorbacks, and they're looking to bounce back this week. Now, the key for Alabama in this game is that they're going to have to play physical, particularly in the secondary with Landon Collins leading the way at safety. They're going to have to play very physical against this Texas A&M offense. Now, for Texas A&M, I do like this team a lot, and they had suffered back-to-back SEC losses, and I really had a hard time going against them losing 3 straight. But they've been making a couple of mistakes with their receivers. receivers dropping a couple of passes, and when teams play physical against their receivers, Kenny Hill and company definitely has a hard time against that. And that's why I have to go with the Crimson Tide in this one. And I think the Crimson Tide's offense is going to step it up. They've been struggling offensively. Blake Sims did have 2 touchdown passes last week, but just 161 yards passing. They're going to have to be more efficient in throwing the football with Blake Sims at the helm at quarterback. Next game, a Pac-12 game between UCLA and California. Now, in my personal opinion, I believe that both these two teams are out of the race for the Pac-12 championship. The reason why I had to call out this game, because both two teams have good offenses. Now, for California, they're led by quarterback Jared Goff, 22 touchdown passes to just 3 interceptions. And we already know about Brent Hundley. He's a good prospect for the 2015 NFL Draft, representing out of UCLA. But Cal's defense has been the most disappointing thing for Cal's team as a team overall. They actually average allowed 38.8 points per game, and it's because of their defense is why California is not doing too well in their wins-loss margin, especially in having 2 losses in Pac-12 play. So I'm going to have to go with UCLA in this one because UCLA just has a better overall defense. Next game, this could be an upset alert. Number 13, Ohio State is going to be hosting against 5-1 Rutgers. This could be an upset alert for this game, but I'm going to have to go with the Buckeyes in this one. They had a great, impressive win at Maryland, and they're back at home to face the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I'm going to have to go with Ohio State in this matchup. An ACC survival matchup between Boston College and number 24, Clemson. Now, both of these two teams have 1 loss in ACC play, and they're both in the Atlantic Division behind Florida State. This is going to be a survival game. Whoever wins this one still has a slight chance of representing the Atlantic Division. But of course, they're going to have to need Florida State to lose a couple of matches in ACC play, particularly for Clemson. Their only loss was against Florida State 23-17 a couple of weeks ago. Now for this game, because Clemson is ranked and their offense is pretty explosive, I'm going to have to go with Clemson over Boston College, but this could be an upset alert because earlier this season, Boston College did upset USC, and they are hosting this matchup, but I have to go with the Tigers over the Eagles in this game. Next game, an SEC matchup between number 10, UGA, Georgia, at Arkansas. Now, I mentioned earlier, Arkansas almost pulled the upset over Alabama. Now, for Georgia, they still have their ground game still great intact without one of the Heisman candidates earlier this season, Todd Gurley. He's going to be suspended. He is suspended for next upcoming weeks, and they still have a couple of good running backs to support that ground attack. And last week, they shut out completely Missouri 34-0, and because of that big performance last week, and they still showed that they could pound the football pretty well, running the football, I'm gonna have to go with the Bulldogs over the Razorbacks in this matchup. Headed over to the Big 12 Conference, number 15 to Oklahoma State is going to be traveling to Fort Worth to play TCU, who is still ranked 12th. Now, they suffered a close loss last week against Baylor at Baylor, and they played a great game, and I'm starting to give even more respect for this TCU team, both offensively and defensively. Now, with quarterback Trevor Boykin, he showed a lot of heart last week. Just a 3-point loss, 61-58 against Baylor. I think that TCU is going to pull off a win, giving Oklahoma State their first Big 12 loss of the season. Next game, Missouri. They only have 1 loss in SEC play so far against Florida, and it's going to be played at the Swamp. Now, for this game, Florida still has questions at quarterback with Jeff Driscoll starting at quarterback, but he's going to be splitting some time with Treon Harris at quarterback because they have some concerns with Jeff Driscoll. He's not actually living up to the hype that even I believe that he can live up to, but he's not been doing too well coming out of high school so far in his career. He's a decent running quarterback as far as running the football, but as a passer, he hasn't really been playing up to par, and I have to go with Missouri in this one. I think they're going to bounce back from that shutout, embarrassing home loss last week to Georgia. Next game, another 1-loss team, Kentucky. Only 1 loss so far in the SEC play. They're going to be traveling to the Bayou to face LSU. Now, last week, LSU finally pulled off their first SEC victory with a close win over Florida. And because they're at home, I think that this is a good LSU team. They're still trying to get things together offensively, particularly in running the football. But I still have to go with LSU in this one. I think they're going to spoil Kentucky's chances. Now, if Kentucky wins, they still have a chance of making it to the SEC championship. I don't think that's going to happen. I have to go with the Tigers over the Wildcats in this game. Pac-12 showdown between number 9 Oregon against unranked Washington. Now Washington is 5-1, and their only loss was against Stanford, 20-13, a close game. And they still have a great offense who could put up some points. Now for Oregon, their defense, I'm just a little bit disappointed in their defense. They're having a lot of miscues this season, and they're at home again. But they lost a couple of weeks ago to Arizona at home. Now they're going to be hosting a good Husky team. I'm going to go with my gut with this one and stick with Oregon in this one. I have them representing the Pac-12 conference and making it to the college football playoff at the end of the year. Now the only team that could ruin things for Oregon is Oregon alone. I'm going to have to stick with the Ducks in this one, but this could be an upset alert. Please do not make me regret picking Oregon over Washington in this match. I'm talking to Oregon in this one. And last but not least, another Pac-12 showdown between number 23 Stanford at number 17 Arizona State. This is going to be an amazing game for you guys to watch. One player in particular I'm going to be watching is Jalen Strong, the receiver for the Sun Devils. He's one of my prospects for the 2015 NFL Draft, and he must have a good game in order to boost his draft status and even to help Arizona State pull off a home victory. But for this one, and due to the fact that Stanford has pretty much been owning Arizona State, particularly in the Pac-12 championship a couple years ago, I'm going to have to go with Stanford over Arizona State, ruining Arizona State's chances. Now at quarterback, Brockovich is still going to be starting over Taylor Kelly, and I think this is still a good decision. Taylor Kelly is still healing himself. He can possibly play for this weekend's showdown, but I'm gonna have to go with a good selection and picking Brockovich over Taylor this week. But I still think that Stanford defense is going to be way too much for Arizona State, and their offense has shown a little bit improvement. 34 points last week against Washington State. They won 34-17 for Stanford Cardinal. And because of their defense pretty much owning Arizona State, I have to go with Stanford over Arizona as another upset game of the week. So that wraps things up with some of my key matches for this week. The next time I'm going to catch you guys will be tomorrow, where I will talk about my game of the week. Number 5 Notre Dame at number 2 Florida State. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching today's vlog from the Football Source. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.